lawyers, even if like as much as sometimes I want to take a case and try to do it as cheaply as possible for someone, obviously we have businesses to run and we've got staff to pay. And believe me, if it's something if I could do it for cheap or next to nothing, I try to, but it's one of those things where it's just the cost of doing business, and litigation is expensive. I like to tell people justice is expensive. So sometimes if you want justice, you better be prepared to spend a ton of money, because realistically, the right thing generally is one of the most expensive things to do.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Only Lawsuits podcast. My name is Joshua Moby-John.
I'm Mike Singh.
This podcast covers lawsuits around the country, along with stuff going on in pop culture. Mike, what's the first topic for today?
Actually, I got one that I didn't send over to you before, and I just kind of found it again. It was something that I found on YouTube. It was, have you ever heard of the influencer Jacked by Jess?
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude, this guy's crazy. So to give you a premise of this situation, right? This guy, he got some popularity online for being he was dating a trans guy that transitioned to a girl. And basically, I think he went on is it the No Jumper podcast? Is that the one with Adam 22 or something like that?
Yeah, that's the podcast with Adam 22.
So yeah, he went on No Jumper, and basically it was wild, dude. He went on No Jumper, and he was saying how, like, you know, him and the girl have sex and do all this stuff, and basically he loves her, and, you know, he sucks the guy's or the girl's some wild, bro. So fast forward to a few months ago, about a month or so ago, turns out like the girl left him and he was kind of like, just like, you know, like what happened. So I'm going to play a clip about kind of what happened there, and we'll talk about some interesting concepts that I thought of when I heard it. So yeah, he did like a whole post on Instagram about this and this my algorithm, because now like I just get trans my algorithm, like my algorithm, but whatever.
You might have deleted it. You might have felt super embarrassed about the entire situation. This is a pretty interesting first subject to discuss for episode 2.
Remember when we sat down with bro, he was talking about his entire family stopped fucking with him because he...
Here it is. This is back on No Jumper.
Ladies and gents.
What's up, guys? It's your boy Jack Like Jess. So yeah, it's true, man. Me and Cassidy, we're done. You know, unfortunately.
What?
You know, she's out in Vegas. You know, she went to Vegas to go, you know, do work and her content or whatever it is that she's doing, to find out that, you know, she's seeing somebody out there. You know,
It'd be your own homies.
I'm heartbroken at the moment.
That's steroids.
But you know, I can't let this take me back into my addiction. You know, for somebody who doesn't appreciate me, I feel spit on the face because I truly showed the whole world and told the whole world how amazing she is. I put her on a beautiful platform. Call me a bitch and a loser.
Damn,
because she has access to all the money.
This is what I was talking about.
The reason I'm doing this is because she does not deserve my heart, my love. I truly put everything to that girl. I appreciate all support. I don't need sympathy. Watch me rise from above this. God bless and thank you.
Really caught my eye with that video was how it talked about, he like went into this whole thing about how he was the one that like kind of promoted it. He pushed his whole relationship out there, and, you know, the social problems that come with dating a trans person openly like that, and still yet some claiming that you're straight, right? That's what his whole thing was. It went viral, got a ton of views.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is he left everything, you know, pretty much in her name. So all the money, all the business that was generated from this kind of was in her control, right? So it kind of got me thinking, like, this is a really cool topic you need to think about in today's day and age, especially. Like, look, you know, when you're in a relationship, or whether you're an influencer or whatever it is, and you're kind of like, and you're on social media together, you're kind of in a business relationship, you know what I'm saying? And this is something people, I think, need to think about, because realistically, you have to think about it like that. If you are doing business with someone, open and making money off of it on social media, somehow, some way, you need to get a lawyer. You need to plan so that situations like this don't happen to you. You know what I'm saying? Because look, will the guy probably end up being fine? Yeah. He's got a good social media presence, whatever it is. And whatever his life choices are, one way or another, he's probably going to be able to generate some revenue. But the big problem is, look, he's got to restart. Just like you just said, he's got to restart everything, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought that was super interesting. Like, a lot of people don't realize love is kind of like a business now when you're on social media, you know?
That's a really, really great point. I mean, that's just relationships in general, especially because he gave her such a big platform. Like he was saying in that video, really kind of put himself out there for her. At the very end, he felt that he was taken advantage of. I definitely agree with that. I see that. You know, I think that's why, like, couples in general, when they get into business, there needs to be clear guidelines and clear expectations of what each person is going to be gaining from the relationship.
Yeah, well, what's crazy is, look, a breakup can be worse when your finances are intertwined. And I think people need to really start thinking about that when they get involved, you know, and start making money together. So now did you see the thing that happened with the state parks in Florida?
I did, man. I did. I read a few articles about that, and that's actually a really, really interesting one. If you guys don't know, Mike will play a clip and we will go into that.
Just so, you know, full disclosure, look, we don't do a ton of research on these topics beforehand. You know, we just kind of look at them and briefly discuss them. So if we're not given 100% accurate information, please understand. I run a law firm full time. I don't have time to dedicate to researching videos online, but you can critique every single thing I say. But here's the video that I watched, which gave a pretty interesting breakdown on it.
I'm Jason Epperson. This is RV Miles, and it's time for the latest in RV and camping news. The Action Department, which runs the state park system, was forced to quickly announce a sweeping plan for development at several state parks after leaked documents outed their existence. The largest components of that plan are 3 golf courses covering 1,050 acres at Jonathan Dickinson State Park. The golf courses would necessitate the removal of the Hobe Mountain Observation Tower, an existing park entrance, staff residences, and more. Jonathan Dickinson State Park is on the Atlantic coast north of Palm Beach. Anastasia State Park on the Atlantic coast in St. Augustine, and Topsail Hill Preserve State Park on the Gulf Coast near Destin would each get lodges with a 350-room capacity, along with 4 pickleball courts and disc golf courses. Other state parks would also get pickleball courts, disc golf courses, and cabins. State residents were given 1 week notice of meetings to present the plans that were to happen tomorrow, Tuesday the 27th, simultaneously at 8 different locations across the state, in person only, and only an hour in length. There would also be no question period during the meeting for officials to clarify or explain plans. And the department planned on having final approval for these sweeping changes done sometime in the course of the next month. Well,
tell me that isn't the scariest.
Yeah.
Because look, as a Florida resident, right, we live in this state, and I utilize the natural resources, you know, for family time, for fun, going to state parks. It's probably one of the coolest things to do if you're in a new part of town or in a new thing. One of the things I do is I go and I look up the nearest state park, and it's interesting because that's, you know, pretty preserved stuff. You can go check it out. When I heard this, and it really makes you think, like, look, if you really think politicians, whether it's left or the right, have your best interests at heart, they don't.
They don't give. And here's the crazy part is I am actually a Ron DeSantis fan. You know, I think he's done a really solid job of governing the state of Florida, regardless of politics, and I thought he did a great job during the pandemic, keeping everything open and keeping the Florida economy strong. It's one of the major reasons why I relocated down here from Los Angeles. But he has a huge part to play in this. A lot of the people who were pushing for these plans were some of his advisors. And now he's trying to take a step back saying, oh, I didn't really know anything about it, but he did. These are major donors to his campaign. And it really just goes to show you, it doesn't matter whether the politician is left or right, like Mike said, they never have the average person's best interest at heart.
Yeah, and I mean, I've kind of talked about this in the past. Some of the laws that passed recently that really impact like plaintiffs' lawyers like myself with the tort reform, they just screw people, the regular people. And look, yeah, DeSantis did a lot of good, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind closed doors, just like this.
Yeah.
Did you notice how fast they were trying to have that meeting? They were trying to do it in 8 different locations at the same time, right? So think about it. You're not going to be able to, when you have these like environmental resources, right? You're not going to be able to put all your efforts in 8 different locations and then there's no comment period. That's crazy.
And this actually brings up another story that's very similar going on the West Coast in California, actually, in a county called Solano, where, or I think it's Serrano County or Solano County. We'll correct that, on screen for you guys. But there is a group of billionaires, libertarian billionaires, who are trying to create a city within this county, and they have bought up about 66,000 acres of land and are trying to force farmers, local farmers in that county, to sell their land. And when they don't sell their land, right, they're bringing them to court, and they're giving them, they're giving them not only a hard time, but mentally, but financially, because Mike knows the court process can be very expensive. And what they did was, it was pretty grimy behind the scenes. Farmers are going to talk to each other, right? They're going to find out, what's going on within the community. One of the things that they brought forward to the court is that these farmers were colluding. It's just like this entire, nightmare scenario, but the community banded together, and they, because there was a ballot initiative that was supposed to come forward as well, and they pushed it off. And this was all stuff that they were really just trying to push at the last minute, giving money to nonprofits, doing this, doing that. And one thing that you and I see too is that, what do these developments always promise? They're always like, oh, it's going to be a huge economic opportunity for people.
Yeah.
Thousands of jobs.
Well, what's crazy,
and it never comes in. It never turns out that way. What's
crazy is I don't know what California's law is like when it comes to like, people being able to access certain documents from like public officials, but like Florida has a law called the Sunshine Law, where literally like you can do a records request for any government, office, and it's got to be narrowly tailored. It's got to you got to follow certain requirements, but you can request things from like communications to and from like individuals. So like one of the things that I'll do is when I'm dealing with clients that have cases against the county, or I'm even guilty of it sometimes, I'll put things in writing to the county, because look, at the end of the day, in the back of my head, I know, number one, they're always gonna, all of the county, or all of the state officials and employees, they either know or should know that everything they put in writing is subject to, Sunshine Law. So what I'll do is I'll start pinging keywords into my communications to these offices. And whatever happens is, number one, they'll respond stupidly. And then, I just know they're idiots. Or number two, they'll start actually like doing what needs to be done the right way or getting your problem resolved, because deep down inside, like the strategy behind it is they're going to know what I'm doing, or I'm going to set them up to get what I want down the road. It's just interesting, man. Like the way the law works in regards to anything. And the only reason this thing came out and got as much popularity, and it's because of social media, man. I remember, I follow a few Instagram pages, and they were talking to, a lot of them were like Florida guy or Florida-based pages, and I follow a lot of fishing pages and stuff, and this was a big thing for them. And bro, it picked up so quickly. It was crazy how fast people picked it up.
Shout out to the guy who was working for the organization or I guess he was in charge of the planning. So he's basically the whistleblower on the entire thing, because had he not told the general public about what was going on, no one would have been the wiser. And the guy ended up actually losing his job. So my man, you're a hero. You really are. But this actually brings up a question for you, Mike. So we hear a lot of stories like this going on around the country, where the little guy, it brings up a good question, because there are a lot of situations around the country where you have the little guy that's facing off against the big corporation. And what ends up doing a lot of these people in ultimately is the cost of counsel, the cost of going to court. So what are some steps that people can take if they ever find themselves in a situation like that, where you are facing an entity that has far more financial firepower than yourself?
And this is a tough area, because, there's so many rules about this type of stuff, when it comes to like lawyers, when it comes to marketing and anything like that, we're bound by so many rules. But like for people, what I would say is, look, get your story out there and get on the phone, get on social media, put your story out there, because you never know when it'll get picked up and who will see it. There's news outlets you can get to. There's a lot of people that we have not been able to help, partially because of the costs. And sometimes what they'll do is I'll tell them, like, look, talk to the news, or I'll try to guide them as best as I can. Because sadly, a lot of it's obviously not the attorneys that cost as much sometimes, it's the actual costs. To run a deposition, I mean, one deposition can be $1,000, $2,000 to get the transcript and actually be able to utilize it. And that's just like, it's a lot of money. A lot of people don't have that money. So what I do is I tell people, like, look, get together, use social media, use the platform for what you can, band a group of people that are willing to contribute to a cause together, because sometimes that's what you need to do. And yeah, like lawyers, even if, like, as much as sometimes I want to take a case and try to do it as cheaply as possible for someone, obviously we have businesses to run and we've got staff to pay. And believe me, if it's something if I could do it for cheap or next to nothing, I try to, but it's one of those things where it's just the cost of doing business, and litigation is expensive. I like to tell people justice is expensive. So sometimes if you want justice, you better be prepared to spend a ton of money, because realistically, the right thing generally is one of the most expensive things to prove.
Hey, quote that.
So I think the last video that I want to get into is kind of comical. And I don't know if you got a chance to see, there was a story about Kamala Harris.
Oh my goodness.
Dude, our girl Kamala
Harris.
Buddy, she changes locations and changes her accents, evidently.
They have more American blood on their hands. The president was clear about that in his statement, and he has been over almost a year now, has been very clear about that, and will continue to be so.
A different topic. Since when does the vice president have what sounds like a southern accent?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
I mean, this is.
she was talking about unions in Detroit using one tone of voice.
Is this something that you think?
Same line.
Okay, Peter.
That she used the same line in Pittsburgh, and it sounded like she at least had some kind of a southern drawl.
I mean, do you hear?
Let's go. We got to see this thing, dude. But I've listened to it, man. Funny.
Everywhere I go, I tell people, look, you may not be a union member. You better thank a union member for the 5-day work week. You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
What?
What she's doing is called code switching, and it's when someone finds themselves in different environments, they tend to change the way that they talk in order to be more relatable. And I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with it, but I think it just goes to show you that politicians like herself, they're really just trying to do and say anything that they can in order to get the vote. I'll never forget back in 2016, Hillary Clinton went on an interview with the Breakfast Club, talking about how, one of my favorite things to do is, one of my favorite things to carry around is I always have hot sauce in my bag. And I'm like, what in the flying? Are you that desperate to relate to people? And that's the thing. Like, I will say this with life in general. I think we've gone away from substance to personality, and regardless of whether you like Kamala Harris or you like Donald Trump, that is basically what it's come down to. Sadly, it's never really about the policy. It's about, do I like this person? Can I be relatable to this person? And I'm not saying that that's not important, but they're all just trying to do and say whatever they can to be elected, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Well, the crazy thing is, man, like, I feel like we're just getting this forced down our throat right now. Obviously, I looked at the Biden-Trump debate and I saw that and I thought this was a setup from the very beginning. I knew deep down inside, because like literally you watch the political pundits talking about how they started like bashing Biden, and then I was like, they're trying to get rid of him. They did it strategically where they're now forcing Kamala down our throat. And like, frankly, I think the problem is like there should be better politicians out there. And look, that's something we're probably never going to get, because all the good politicians get bumped, or if they're not media savvy, the media pushes them out.
And I'll even add on to that. I think like, the major issue that I've had, especially this cycle, is that with a candidate like herself who's running for the most powerful position in the world, essentially, she doesn't really sit down to do interviews. Look, I'm not a fan of Trump. I'm going to come out and say that, right? But the one thing I can respect him for is that, he's done a wide swath of interviews with people from all walks of life. Like, you can go to YouTube and you type in Donald Trump interview and you can find 500, right? I'm exaggerating, but you can find tons that he's done over the last few months, and she doesn't do one. And it's hard because when you have something like politics that's so media driven, you're only essentially getting one side of the story all the time. So.
Dude, did you see Theo Vaughn? Theo Vaughn actually is like, I think Theo Vaughn would be the perfect host for debate.
He would.
Because,
he would.
dude, he interviewed RFK, he interviewed Bernie, and he interviewed Trump.
Yeah.
And I think he sent a request out to Kamala, but I don't know this with certainty, but I don't think she's taken him up on it. But that goes to the point, man. Look, you know, she's hiding, and that's how I feel. And I'm just like I don't even have time for politics like that. There are people legitimately out there that like dedicate themselves to this shit. And I can tell you, I would love to hear more about her, more from her. You know what I'm saying? But
and you know, Mike and I can speak for this. Like we're, you know, socially in a lot of ways, like we're liberal, but like fiscally, you know, we're conservative. So we consider ourselves like more moderate. People.
I don't give a shit about.
Yeah, so we don't really care.
I don't care. You know, like do what you want with your life. Like I just want the government out of my life. That's the way I feel.
Yeah.
And yeah, technically being a lawyer, I'm kind of in the government and I'm in this machine, but it's because, man, like if you're not, you know, aware of it and you're not in it, guess what? It's going to steamroll right over you. So my dad always told me there's two things that, you know, are always going to run the world: medicine and lawyers. Literally, the law and the legal process guides every single aspect of our life. And, you know, doctors give birth to us and they also do the autopsies when we die. So literally.
What's the quote? I'm not right wing. I'm not left wing. I'm the whole chicken.
I like chicken.
And we love chicken.
And with that being said, this is the end of episode 2. I appreciate everyone joining us, and hopefully we'll have some more content, getting some more of these kinks worked out. We're still trying to figure this thing out. But we appreciate everyone's feedback and look forward to doing some more content.
Like and subscribe, and until next time.